Imagine for a second that you are sitting inside a professional sports team's war room.
Oh man, the stress in those rooms is just unreal.
Right. I mean, the air conditioning is blasting, but everyone in there is still sweating.
Yeah, pacing around, drinking terrible coffee.
Exactly. You've got these massive whiteboards covering every inch of the walls, and they're just lined with hundreds of magnetic nameplates.
And the clock is literally ticking down.
3 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You have a team of data scientists on your left telling you exactly what the math says you have to do.
Right, they're pointing at the spreadsheets.
So then you have a grizzled head scout on your right, slamming his fist on the table, telling you to just ignore the math and draft the kid with the most heart.
It's the ultimate pressure cooker.
It really is. The entire future of a multi-million-dollar franchise rests on the name you are about to read into a microphone. So today, we're tearing open the transaction logs of the LTLHL Season 6 entry draft.
Which was just chaotic.
Complete chaos. We're doing a deep dive to find out why professional hockey executives basically ignored the math, threw out the spreadsheets, and bet their entire careers on, well, locker room vibes and goalie voodoo.
Because at that moment, all the theoretical planning just collides with human emotion, right?
Yeah.
Organizational politics and the sheer chaos of a live draft floor.
Totally.
What happens on that draft floor doesn't just shape a hockey team. It reveals the core philosophy of the people running the organization.
Yeah, and to figure out exactly what those philosophies are, we've pulled together a massive stack of sources for you. We've got the pre-draft mock models that the insiders were heavily relying on.
Which turned out to be wildly wrong in some cases.
Oh, completely. We also have the official league transaction logs
Right.
and the post-draft scout analyses that grade the mechanics of, every single move.
The real granular stuff.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Going into the draft, all the predictive models and all the consensus data pointed in one very specific, very logical direction.
The board seemed pretty much set.
It did. But when the actual names were called, the general manager stepped up to the podium and just completely torched the consensus.
It was a stark reminder that the game is played on ice, not on a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. And the discrepancy between the mock drafts and reality hit like a freight train right at the #1 overall pick.
Oh, the Denver pick.
Yes. Every pre-draft model insisted that the Denver Bandits had a clean, obvious, slam dunk choice.
Oystein Gravdal.
Right, Gravdal. I mean, he's a premium center. He posted 32 goals and 74 points in 82 games.
He had the strongest model score in the entire class.
By far. And the conventional wisdom is that if you need a franchise player, you take the elite center. But Denver goes to the podium, and they shock the building. They take a defenseman, Gerhard Reifel.
Right out of the gate, the Bandits make this massive structural statement.
I have to admit, looking at the raw numbers, this feels crazy. To me, drafting Gravdal is like buying a massive 800 horsepower engine for a race car. You know it's going to produce incredible speed.
Yeah, it looks great on the showroom floor.
Exactly. But taking Reifel, the defenseman, it feels like upgrading the car's transmission instead.
Which is way less flashy.
Totally less flashy. The engine looks amazing, but without a world-class transmission transferring that power to the wheels, you aren't going anywhere. But still, passing on a generational scorer for a minute-eating defender seems entirely too safe.
You think he'll regret it?
I mean, are the Denver Bandits going to wake up in 3 years and deeply regret passing on 74 points a season?
Well, what's fascinating here is the definition of safe in the context of professional hockey. I mean, you use the transmission analogy, which is perfect.
Thanks.
Because in the LTLHL, a true shutdown, all situations defenseman, is the mechanism that drives the entire game.
So you're saying the transmission is actually the most important part?
100%. Let's look at what happened in the playoffs just before this draft. Teams watched the Miami Trident march to the finals with this incredibly suffocating defensive structure.
Oh man, playing against them looked miserable.
It was. Miami allowed only 2.44 goals against per game in the postseason.
But how did they actually do that? Because, 2.44 goals against in the modern era is absurdly low.
Right. They did it by basically controlling the oxygen of the game. They didn't just block shots, they denied zone entries altogether.
Yeah, right.
When a team tried to carry the puck over the blue line against Miami, the defensemen had such flawless gap control, meaning they kept the perfect distance between themselves and the attacking forward.
So they force a mistake.
Exactly. The offense had no choice but to dump the puck into the corner. That disrupts the entire offensive flow.
Right.
Denver's front office watched that structural dominance and realized that a player like Rifle represents a decade of high floor stability.
And he's not totally without offense either, right?
No, not at all. He actually put up 76 points from the blue line in junior, so he possesses real offensive vision. But his primary value is that he dictates the terms of engagement on the ice.
Because if your defense can't retrieve the puck in the corner and transition it up the ice, that massive 800 horsepower engine of a center spends all night playing in his own zone anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the structural reality of the league. Playoff hockey gets incredibly tight and physical. The ice just shrinks.
So Denver proved that a structural floor matters more than an offensive ceiling. But the very next sequence of picks flipped that logic in a completely different direction.
Oh, completely upside down.
The Tucson Muertos were on the clock at number 2, and they took Gavril Nazarov from the Saskatoon Berries.
A total highlight reel guy.
Pure electrifying skill. We are talking 143 points in 168 games in the Nissen League.
Insane production.
51 goals, 92 assists. But when you dig into the scout analyses, you see major defensive question marks. The reports constantly flag his inconsistency off the puck.
Yeah, when you watch the tape on Nazarov, you see the ultimate boomer bust talent.
How bad is it defensively?
Well, the moment his team gets even a hint of possession in their own end, he is already blowing the zone. He's flying past the blue line looking for a stretch pass to get a breakaway.
Which is how you score 51 goals, I guess.
Exactly. But what happens if his defenseman fumbles the puck during the forecheck? Nazarov is 80 feet away, and now his team is trapped in their own zone playing at a 5-on-4 disadvantage. He cheats for offense.
Wow. So Tucson is betting their coaching staff can teach Nazarov how to back-check and play disciplined hockey.
That's a huge gamble.
Right. But then, literally the next pick at number 3, the St. Lambert Maulers step up and take Brody Eastwood.
Such a contrast.
Night and day.
Yeah.
The scouting reports on Eastwood don't mention electrifying skill or 140-point upside. They call it a pure culture pick.
Yep.
They highlight his late-game dependability and the fact that coaches absolutely trust him in high-leverage situations.
St. Lambert is looking at the mechanics of winning close games. Think about it. When it's Game 7 of a playoff series and there are 2 minutes left and you are clinging to a 1-goal lead.
The scariest 2 minutes in sports.
Oh, yeah. You need a player whose pulse doesn't rise. You need a forward who knows how to pie up the opponent's stick off a faceoff, who will put his body in shooting lanes, and who will never panic and turn the puck over at his own blue line.
So Eastwood is the guy the coach taps on the shoulder when a mistake means your season is over.
He's the ultimate security blanket.
And the draft floor's obsession with character and the human element reached its absolute emotional peak just 2 picks later.
Oh, the militia pick.
Yeah. At number 5, the Massachusetts Militia were on the clock, and they drafted left winger Skip Evans.
What a moment.
The motivation behind the pick was wild. They drafted him to honor their general manager's late father. You are sitting in the arena, you hear that announcement, and it instantly becomes the defining story of the entire first round.
There wasn't a dry eye in the house.
It is a beautiful sentiment, truly. But I have to push back on the reality of professional sports here. This is a brutal, unforgiving league.
It is.
How does a young kid like Skip Evans handle the crushing, suffocating pressure of being a sentimental legacy pick? Every time he misses a pass or goes on a 5-game point drought, the critics are going to loudly claim the militia threw away a top 5 pick for a PR stunt.
It is an immense psychological burden for a young player to carry, no doubt.
Yeah.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the militia's front office didn't just draft a headline.
They actually liked his game.
Oh, Evans is a highly legitimate prospect. He scored 39 goals. He brings immense physical grit and this relentless blue-collar work ethic on the forecheck.
So he fits their identity perfectly.
Exactly. The militia are executing a very deliberate strategy to build a cohesive team culture. They want players who understand that putting on this specific sweater means something far deeper than just collecting a paycheck.
They want the locker room to police itself when things get tough.
Look at how Massachusetts followed up that emotional selection. When they were back on the clock later in the first round, at pick 21, they drafted Brant McAllister.
Another defenseman.
Right. And McAllister isn't flashy at all. The scouts call him a practical, structural, complementary player.
So they balanced it out.
Yes. The militia balanced the heart and the heavy emotion of the Evans pick with the cold, hard, structural necessity of the McAllister pick.
That makes a lot of sense. But, that locker room chemistry doesn't just materialize out of thin air.
Not at all.
Because as I was cross-referencing these scout reports with the transaction logs, a massive pattern jumped right off the page at me.
The junior teams.
Yes. The militia built a high-character locker room, but they basically bought it off the shelf from two very specific junior programs. The Saskatoon Berries and the Wichita Warhawks completely hijacked the first round of this draft.
The pipeline effect. It was arguably the dominant underlying mechanism of the entire weekend.
Saskatoon produced Gabriel Nazarov, Ido Rosman, and Grayson Wiley. And then Wichita produced Skip Evans, Stanislav Budaj, and Alexander Zburis.
Just an unbelievable concentration of talent.
I'm looking at this talent pool, and it feels exactly like a massive tech company that refuses to hire engineers from anywhere except one specific Ivy League university.
That's a really good comparison.
Right, because yes, it guarantees a certain baseline of competence, because you know the curriculum, but it severely risks groupthink.
Huge risk.
Take the Edmonton Blizzard, for example. They doubled down on Saskatoon players, taking Rosman at number 8 and then Wiley at number 22.
Yep, they went all in on the Berries.
But if you play on a line with a 140-point guy like Nazarov, you get secondary assists just by existing in the offensive zone. Are front offices like Edmonton wearing blinders and drafting inflated stats?
When a scouting department falls in love with a specific junior system, confirmation bias is a highly dangerous trap.
Because they just trust the jersey.
Exactly. Saskatoon runs a high-flying, run-and-gun offensive system. It inflates point totals across the entire roster.
Ah, I see.
If a junior team is dominating possession every single night, it can artificially inflate the perceived value of a secondary player who is simply riding the coattails of the stars. You start seeing the system's success rather than the individual player's flaws.
Looking at the defending champion Quebec City Harfang, it seems to me they are completely outsourcing their cultural development to Wichita.
That is a bold way to frame it, but tactically it's brilliant.
Really?
Yeah. Quebec City took Alexander Jerzes, a defenseman from Wichita, at pick number 9. That is a calculated, mature selection of a shutdown defender.
So they know exactly what they're getting.
Right. Wichita runs a pro-level system. Their coach holds players accountable defensively. They run a rigid neutral zone trap that forces players to learn elite positional awareness.
Which is hard to teach at the pro level if they haven't learned it yet.
Exactly. Quebec City is a championship roster. They are basically saying, we don't have 3 years to teach a teenager how to be a professional. We want the prospect who has already been marinated in a winning culture and knows the standard.
So the defending champions play it safe by buying developmental certainty. But while they were doing that, other franchises pushed all their chips to the absolute center of the table.
We saw some huge swings.
We really did. We saw some aggressive asset management. Las Vegas traded valuable future assets to move up to pick 14 just to grab Orojoki, a winger.
When a general manager spends capital to move up the board like that, they are telling the entire fan base, this is our missing piece.
Which is so much pressure on a kid.
Oh, it puts immediate heavy pressure on Joki to perform. And if he struggles to adapt to the speed of the pro game, the GM owns that failure completely.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because trading up for a speedy winger is one thing. The most unpredictable, mind-bending strategy of the entire first round revolved around the goalies.
Oh, the goalies. Pure chaos.
It's pure goalie voodoo. It started at pick number 12. The Atlanta Royals step up and take Armand Berra, a standout with a .909 save percentage for the Buffalo Chill.
Which is high for a goalie.
Taking a goalie in the top half of the first round is already a massive swing given how weird their development curves are. But then, history is made. Pick number 16.
I still can't believe this happened.
The Toronto Red Tails are on the clock. This is an expansion franchise. They have a completely blank slate. Their first ever franchise selection. And they take goaltender Gerald Gesson.
A literal gasp went through the room.
I am still flabbergasted by this sequence of events. You are building a multi-million-dollar franchise from scratch. Your very first cornerstone piece is a goaltender, the single most unpredictable position in all of sports.
This raises an important question about the fundamental philosophy of expansion drafting.
Because they could have had anyone.
Right. When you are an expansion team, you have nothing. You have no structural identity, no veteran leadership, and no fans in the seats yet.
Just a logo and some nice jerseys.
Exactly. Passing on an elite point-producing skater, the kind of player who scores highlight reel goals, sells jerseys, and gives your marketing department something to put on a billboard is an incredibly volatile risk.
You can't really put a goalie on a billboard if your defense is terrible and he's giving up 4 goals a night. A young goalie facing 40 shots a game behind an expansion defense is going to get his confidence absolutely shattered.
It's a recipe for disaster if it goes wrong. But let's look at the genius side of the argument.
Okay, sell me on it.
If you secure a true franchise goaltender, you establish an immediate identity of stability. The development curve for a goalie is notoriously long, sure. They often don't peak until their late 20s.
Right.
But a great goalie can hide a multitude of sins on an expansion roster. If your defense is porous and missing assignments because you're still building the team's chemistry, an elite goalie bails you out.
He masks all the mistakes.
He steals games you have absolutely no business winning. He makes you competitive every single night.
It's a massive boomer-bust move. It will either make the Toronto GM a visionary legend who built his franchise outward from the crease, or it will cost them their job in 3 years when the team routinely loses games 2-1 because they have no offensive firepower.
It's the ultimate organizational tightrope walk.
It really is. Pulling back from the draft floor, looking at this massive reshuffling of talent, the core lesson from the Season 6 draft is incredibly clear.
And it applies to so much more than just hockey.
Exactly. In high-stakes, hyper-competitive environments, assembling a successful organization is almost never about simply grabbing the most talented individuals on paper.
It's not about the highest mathematical model score.
No. It's about building a foundational structure.
It is the ultimate lesson in organizational management. You see this dynamic in Silicon Valley startups as much as you see it on the ice.
How so?
Well, a team composed of nothing but visionary, flashy, front-end talent often collapses the moment the market gets tough or the playoffs begin. You need the structural guys in the trenches doing the unglamorous work.
Oh, transition guys.
Exactly, the transition guys. That's why defensemen like Rifle and goalies like Geeson dominated the draft board. That's why character picks like Eastwood repeatedly beat out pure statistical hype.
Because you need defensive stability and players whose pulse doesn't rise when the pressure spikes. Whether you're, managing a project at work, building a business, or analyzing sports, you need complementary pieces.
100%.
I love the focus on the foundation.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you with a brand new, incredibly provocative thought to chew on. Something that builds on everything we've just discussed about player development, but throws a massive wrench into the league's economic machine.
Oh, the rule change.
Yes. While everyone was laser-focused on the draft picks, the LTLHL announced a quiet but massive update to the rulebook regarding team finances.
This is a fascinating wrinkle that changes the entire economic landscape of the league.
Here is the rule change. Pro head coaches now command a $1.2 million minimum salary.
Which is significant on its own.
Right. But the massive catch is that coaching salaries are no longer included in the $59 million team salary cap.
It's purely an ownership finance issue now, not a roster cap issue.
Think about the ramifications of what we just discussed. We have all these teams making risky, high-upside draft picks. Guys like Nazarov with raw, electrifying talent, but deep defensive flaws.
Guys who need serious, hands-on development.
Exactly. With the coach's salary off the cap, will the richest franchises in the league now simply open their checkbooks and buy the best coaches in the world to fix these young players?
If you have an ownership group with deep pockets, you can essentially buy an elite developmental advantage without sacrificing a single dollar of your ability to sign star players on the ice.
That's a massive competitive edge.
Huge. You can hire a massive staff of specialized development coaches to fix Nazarov's defensive cheating or to meticulously protect Geeson's confidence in goal in Toronto.
Will the coaches become the ultimate competitive advantage in Season 6? Can a billionaire owner fix a flawed draft pick just by hiring a $5 million whisperer behind the bench?
It's going to be fascinating to watch.
It really is. We want you to ponder how unlimited coaching budgets might completely change the future of player development in this league. Because at the end of the day, you could have all the whiteboards, all the data models, and all the analytics in the world inside that war room.
Yep.
But once the draft is over, you still have to put the human beings on the ice and teach them how to play together.
The draft is just the blueprint. The coaching staff still has to build the house.
And sometimes the blueprint says 800 horsepower engine, but the guy holding the hammer knows you really just needed a new transmission.